Hi there, it's Anthony again. I'm an emergency physician from Vancouver, Canada. Just reporting to you from a town called La Entrada, which is a town kind of in the west of Honduras, about a few hours southwest of San Pedro Sula, which is supposed to be our ultimate destination here in Honduras to provide hurricane relief. Um, and once again, I'm going with two charities or non-governmental organizations. One of them is CMAT, Canadian Medical Assistance Teams, and this is in close partnership with Humanity First Canada. So I have to excuse myself because this is a bit of a noisy room. The reason that you may hear a little bit of background noise is that it is raining cats and dogs outside, and basically we're starting to see the beginnings of Tropical Storm Iota, which is, if you recall, the reason our team was sent down here was for hurricane relief for Hurricane Eta, which has already passed Honduras and is now kind of affecting Florida and kind of other parts of the Caribbean. But shortly afterwards, there was a second hurricane that initially was classified as Category 5 called Hurricane Iota. So it's a kind of a double natural disaster. And Iota touched down on Nicaragua today as a Category 4 hurricane, and then quickly lost its speed and force, and now has been downgraded to a tropical storm. And I should mention the date, it's November 17th, 2020. So let me just tell you a little bit about what happened today. Basically, I just wanted to highlight that part of disaster relief, especially medical disaster relief, has nothing to do with actual providing of medical care or medications even. Certainly that is the final kind of end objective that we hope to accomplish, but a big part of what makes everything possible is logistics. And we would really not be able to provide any medical relief in disaster-stricken areas without logisticians on our team. And they really make these types of trips both logistically possible, like coordinated, possible, but also safe. So I just wanted to give you an example based on what happened today with our team. So we flew into Guatemala at about 11:30 last night, so that was November 16th. And so we were faced with a bit of a problem because at that time it was very late at night, and we knew that Tropical Storm Iota was heading into Nicaragua and then later would hit Honduras. And at that time, it was projected that it would be Category 5, which is winds above 250 kilometers an hour, very, very destructive, possibly even worse than Hurricane Eta. So we were scared that we would lose our window for getting into Honduras on time. At the same time, we didn't want to drive into a Category 5 hurricane and be bombarded with all the dangers that come with being caught in a storm. So we had to make a decision last night, or rather should I say the logisticians were faced with the decision last night on whether to stay in Guatemala City or start the drive overnight to try to make it to San Pedro Sula, which is in kind of northwest Honduras, which was our original game plan, and try to beat the storm basically, but try to beat Iota to our destination. So the decision was eventually made to put our belongings in a bus, which is a school bus that was rented out, and we loaded all our cargo on the bus, and a lot of it was put on the top of the bus, and then all of our crew was inside the bus, and we ended up driving from from Guatemala City after having eaten a quick meal. And so to get from Guatemala City to the Guatemala-Honduras border took about, we left at around, I would say around 2 a.m. And then we got to the border at around 8:30 a.m. So it took about 6.5 hours. And once we got to the border, we were faced with a few more difficulties. The main thing was we needed to get border clearance to bring in all of our equipment, a lot of which is pharmaceuticals, so life-saving, essential medications. But not only the medications, we need to bring in tents, medical beds, autoclaves to sterilize our equipment. We need to bring in suture kits, syringes, needles, and that's just a small list of the entire manifest of equipment that we'd brought with us. So anyway, so it was relatively simple for us to clear immigration, Honduran immigration. It was just a matter of stamping passports and showing them a letter that we had approval from both the Pan American Health Organization and the CMAT, which is to Honduras what like a National Emergency Operations Center would be to Canada. So it's like a coordinating organization that kind of coordinates where resources go in the country whenever a disaster hits. So anyway, we showed up at the border, Guatemala-Honduras border at around 8:30, and we ended up being held up at customs for guess how long? We were held there for 5 hours waiting in our bus, and the reason was, we're not exactly sure quite what the reason was, but ideally, so the organization, so CMAT and Pan American Health Organization, they're supposed to coordinate with customs and tell them that we're going to bring all this equipment. And we sent our logisticians had sent these organizations a manifest with all of our equipment, a list of all our equipment, a list of all of our personnel that we were going to bring into the country, because it was something that was deemed as needed by the government. And for some reason, customs didn't know we were coming, and we were just held at the border waiting for a stamp of approval. And we were waiting there for a total of almost 6 hours. And it was quite a harrowing experience, because imagine you're there and you see on your map that a hurricane is coming in, and it's in Nicaragua, which is kind of just south of Honduras, and it's every hour it gets a little bit closer to you. And every hour that you miss, every hour that you lose by being delayed at the border leads to another potential, an increased risk of having a problem on the road on the way to San Pedro Sula. So at that point, our head logisticians, and at some point I'll introduce you to them once they're awakened in the same room, decided to do the bold move of saying we would withdraw back to Guatemala. And we actually backed the bus out of the border, and we backed it out saying we're going to leave if you don't let us through, because we're running out of daylight hours to make this trip safe. And just as we were about to leave, a man comes out, and he had been telling us no all day, and he suddenly says, okay, you're good to go. So we ended up being able to proceed to Honduras kind of 6 hours after we had arrived at the border. So just imagine that, it's just such a nerve-wracking process. Anyway, so we end up kind of leaving the border, and it's around 5 p.m. at that time, and it's kind of getting dark and it's starting to rain a little bit, so we decide we aren't going to be able to make it to San Pedro Sula. We heard news from the CMAT, the Emergency Coordinating Center, that the roads were beginning to close, the bridges were closed around San Pedro Sula, so It was too dangerous. The rivers are swelling. There are landslides blocking the road. So we would have to stop for the night before we reach San Pedro Sula. So hence here we are at La Entrada, and the logistical problems don't end there. There's all the extra security that we had to think about when parking our bus on the road, which has all this cargo on top of it. And so it required really the entire team, but mainly the logistics team, who are non-medical people, to sort out for us. So without that, we would be lost. So anyway, that's my update for today. I'm going to try to highlight a different aspect of humanitarian or specifically disaster relief aid as we come across challenges, and hopefully that will keep things interesting for you guys. If you have any questions, comments, just please just post it below, and I guess if you're watching this on YouTube, smash that like button, because that's what everybody is telling me to say, and I'll catch you later.